Overtime was created by Matt Holman, founder of the EMW Foundation, and is made possible by the Prodigy Media Group and RPM Athlete Performance, with inspirational credit to my friend, Dr. Fred Opie. Welcome to Overtime, an open conversation series on racism in the sport of lacrosse. We hope you find this thought-provoking, educational, and it leaves you better prepared as a member of the lacrosse community. Thanks again for joining us, and now for this week's panel. Welcome to tonight's show. I'm Matt Holman, your host, and this is Overtime. I'll do a quick intro of our panelists tonight, and we'll get going. First, we have Coach Gina Thomas, the head coach at Cincinnati, and she is currently with her toddler, so we will hear her voice, and we may not see her image, but that's okay. Then we have Lars Tiffany, head coach at Virginia. Welcome back. We have Mira, newly minted assistant coach at Michigan, her alma mater. So we can talk about that. Yeah. We have Brian Silcott, who is here with us again, development director for Jamaica lacrosse, and also on the U.S. lacrosse board of directors. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time tonight, and we'll dive right in. We can take this as one at a time, but what, if any, conversations focused on racism and current social issues have you had with your respective teams or programs? And let's just say over the last 3 weeks, because I think 3 weeks is enough of things have happened socially that you might want to have a conversation. Who wants to go first?
I can go first. I'll go first.
All right, Gina.
So we've continuously had conversations throughout the last couple of years, but most importantly, this, like probably about 4 weeks ago, our team communicated to me that they wanted to do something different. So we had our team watch the Netflix series When They See Us, just to kind of make it more real and emotional. And we broke it up into the parts that they have. And we gave them a week to watch it and had questions in the conversation about each series for the last 4 weeks. So our team really enjoyed that because, again, it was a, true story, and there's so many other different series and, interviews that's come after that. So they've done some research for the things after that. And I thought that was really impactful. Our team was really engaged, and just the different things that kind of have gone on in that just Netflix series in general gave our team a little bit more perspective. And it's just not, something that's educational. It's, educational and emotional and a true story, and hits a lot of different pieces of kind of what's going on systematically in the world. So I thought that was a really good engagement opportunity for our young kids today.
And you said they thought of this too, which they came to you.
Yeah, it was a junior and two seniors, two African-American and one Caucasian young lady that they saw the series and brought it up to me and said that they thought it was a good idea for our team to watch it.
That's awesome. And I kind of really set up the rest of you guys. I hope you can top that. No, but I think that's incredible in a way that the players dictated it. I think that's the most important piece. I feel like that they're willing to learn. So I'll let you other coaches speak up though. Coach Tiffany?
Well, unfortunately, the 3-week time frame is going to be constraining to me. We've been talking a lot about COVID-19, and unfortunately, I can't go into too much detail, but we've run into some challenges and roadblocks with the virus. I know we're not alone. We're certainly disappointed that we've had some challenges with getting, doing what we're supposed to be doing on the field. And so we've been focusing mostly on our, sort of coronavirus safe protocols and behaviors for the last 3 weeks. So unfortunately, I feel like what really stinks about it is not being able to move forward with the program and not being able to move forward with our cultural Thursdays. I think I may have alluded to this the first time I was on the show, Matt, with Overtime, that, as a lacrosse program for 3 years, every Thursday, or just about every Thursday, we spend about 30 to 40 minutes as a team, off the field, in a classroom, in the locker room, talking about issues, talking about whether it's sort of societal issues or talking about team issues, talking about pressure, talking about things that are going to make us open up and bond and make us tighter as a unit. And we've used 7 different books. We've used inspirational videos. We've had guest speakers. You know, we do so much reading as a team. We're almost, you know, jokingly a book club with a lacrosse habit. And it's been incredible. And we did 3, or maybe 4. We've had 4 different discussions on race over the summer. What was nice with the NCAA when our seasons all got shut down in mid-March is that they allowed us to continue to move forward through the rest of the spring and into the summer. Typically, as lacrosse coaches and spring sport teams, we're not allowed to spend any time with our men over the summer, or women. That was put aside for this summer. So we were able to do more of our cultural Thursdays on different days of the week. But and so it's been a time of growth for us. But in the last few weeks, we're on banana peels, slipping and sliding, not really moving forward. So that's part of my concern of not only being on a practice field, but not really being able to spend a lot of time talking about what's going on in the world itself.
Interesting.
Lost opportunity.
I guess I'll go next. I don't have an actual lacrosse team right now. You know, I coach young kids largely, other than Jamaica. Jamaica is shut down, and little kids are not allowed to see me at all right now in California. We're on very tight restrictions. But I did have a really cool opportunity to talk to a different kind of team. I was invited initially by Kyle Harrison and the folks at the PLL to address their team about my experiences as a Black lacrosse player and as a Black man, not just as a human being in the United States. And it was cool in many ways. It was cool for me to have that opportunity to do it at kind of a different level. I wasn't talking to youngsters or even high school or college kids. I was talking to adults, which was really kind of a cool thing about it. But also for me, it was really cool that they took the time to want to do that. You know, we saw the stuff they did out on the field, but it felt to me like they were going, you know, walking the walk too. They weren't just putting on t-shirts on the field. They were taking action within their organization to ensure that what they said they thought should be done, they were doing themselves. And it was a cool conversation. I got feedback from folks afterwards. It was very positive, some good questions. You know, I felt super comfortable, which was interesting, and was able to tell a couple things I'd never really told anyone before story-wise about some things. So it was a very cool experience, and I think there was value for all of us in it. And you know, as you and I have talked about, that these conversations are what it's all about. You know, the more we do it, the more we listen to each other, the more we hear, the better we all become as human beings.
Yeah, Silcott, that sounds awesome. Glad you got to talk to those guys. I know that's really important too to what they're doing over there with Black Lacrosse Alliance and everything. And I think the more people they bring into that space and the more voices, the merrier. It's going to be awesome. For us over here at Michigan, I think more combos are to come. I know we've had a big focus on, since we just had National Voter Registration Day, we had some girls ask, how do I do an absentee? How do I vote? And so it's my plan to kind of transcend the social issues / how I feel about the matter, even though it's not necessarily political, but I want to instill upon the girls on our team that it sort of is in my eyes, and I can't really BS it anymore. And so the best that I can do as a coach is give them the resources to either do an absentee or to vote here in Michigan, a swing state, and to just have them recognize that power of, you know, what it means to vote, what it means to have the right to vote as a woman, since it took a long time, what it means to vote being a person of color myself, and kind of transcending that and explaining it to them, especially with RBG passing so recently. There's so much importance, and I think education that people need to know, that we still, you know, if you've been incarcerated, you can't vote. So what does that mean for if you actually do have the power? So that's kind of where I'm taking conversations currently with my team. Yeah, and it's been interesting. You know, we even had a kid that was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna vote," and I was like, "Dude, no, you've got to." But I think it's like what you say to motivate them, and then also give them the resources too.
Yeah, I think the voting it's interesting that I spoke to a coach this morning at one of our Ivy League schools for the women's team, and they did the same thing. They had a day of focus on voting. And it's funny, as an adult, you sometimes overlook that an 18 to 19 to 20-year-old, maybe 21-year-old, really doesn't think to register to vote. And she said they didn't even know how, which I was kind of shocked too, because most of those age group is much more tech savvy than I. And I'm like, how can you not know how to vote? That's so easy. But it's so important that people do, because it is the world they're going to inherit. They need to vote. So,
and Matt, I think an important thing about what you just said is often I think don't know how and feel stupid that they don't know how, so don't bother to ask. They just continue to not vote, right? Because they don't want to say, I don't even know how to actually get registered, you know, because they feel silly saying it, and so they just don't vote.
Right.
Yep. So I think, what we're trying to do out here is, I actually have to finish it out today, but it's like I'm going to get all these girls' rosters, basically look up their states. And so there's no excuse of, you know, if you need to register, if you need to do an absentee by state, because I just want to motivate our girls that much, you know, make it easy, one click, you know, and really understanding the power of that voice, what it means.
Collective voice, for sure. Very strong statements.
I think it's great. Even that one woman admitted she didn't think she would vote, you know, and because, you know, I think it is a time where if it's hard to speak up when you're saying something that, you know, doesn't seem like what the mainstream wants you to say, or what the purpose, you know, where we're all sort of funneling voices right now. And so it's great that somebody would actually say that to, you know, open the rest of our eyes. You know, sometimes as coaches, like, everyone's got me right, you know, and everyone's like, oh, I better nod my head. You know, and we just got to ask the question the right way. So I know I'm really excited about UVA is with our SAC group, student athletes. What does SAC stand for? Advisory Committee. But the SAC's a national organization, but that is, I think, their primary initiative this semester is get the vote out.
You just segued into my fourth question, Coach Tiffany, so I'm going to bring it up now. Are you, where appropriate, obviously Brian and I are on the campuses, but are you forming campus alliances with other teams, campus organizations? Are you looking to like mirror pro sports with coalitions, and et cetera? And I thought that was a good question. It actually was submitted by Coach Taylor Pinnell from Columbia, who said to say hello to you, Mira.
My old club coach right there.
He was very happy to hear that you were back on. So she said to say hello. But yeah, are you that are on campus, you three, are you partnering with other teams, whether it be the other men's or women's program in lacrosse, or even other sports coaches that are kind of like, so I'm sure all you coaches are in the same boat. You're just like, how do I educate my players? Is there a concerted group effort that you're undertaking, or how's it flowing?
I can go. I'd say that there's definitely room to collaborate more. I feel like especially now, it's, as Coach Tiffany was saying, it's difficult, and definitely not an excuse, but it's difficult due to the virus and COVID-19 just preventing so many people from gathering. But I feel like that's almost even more incentive to maybe do some virtual stuff as a men's and women's team, and really try to get this point across, you know, whether it's for social justice or reform within our own community. We're beyond that, you know, from a national level. I know we were trying to do some stuff collaborating with, I think it was Detroit Lacrosse or some other youth groups in the area, but I definitely think there can be more energy. And I think also more national energy going towards, okay, how can we collab once maybe the pandemic subsides and we're all able to do things safely? How can we collaborate more within these programs that are nonprofits that already do great work, like the City Lax is out there, the Oakland Lacrosse is the Detroit Lacrosse, and to really expand that point of accessibility that I think we always mention, but where is the action point there?
We've done some things with our women's lacrosse program in the past, and typically surrounded around One Love, the organization started by Yardley Love's family after her murder 10 years ago. And that's been fantastic because it's talking about having smarter relationships, healthier relationships. And it's been something we did as a team alone, but then recently we started doing with the women's lacrosse team. And first of all, I was really impressed with the maturity of both the men and the women to be able to talk about this. And I think it's been really productive. And so it naturally allowed us one time late in the summer, we did have a combined discussion on race with our women's lacrosse team run by UVA's multicultural studies, a couple people, Tremaine Robinson and a woman named John O'Toole. And that was really helpful too. That was all by Zoom. And so I never feel as good about the end of a Zoom call, right? But it was good to, be able to go through some of that. So we've scratched the surface, but just once.
Gina, what about on your front?
Yeah, so we haven't done any collaborations, like Mira said, with other teams because, and like Lars said, it's just really hard that different teams are in different places with their return to protocol, like the return to play protocol. So our like basketball teams and football teams are able to be together, but every other team on campus is half of their team is home and half of them are campus. But they have formed the Black Student Athlete Alliance at UC, which I think is a start. Which again, everything is virtual right now. But when it comes to collaborating with teams as a whole team, we haven't done anything like that yet.
And COVID is playing a huge part in all of this because I feel like it's a double-edged sword. The time that we've been given from COVID, so to speak, forced time to stay at home and socially distant. And then these issues that have always been there, but now they're being projected on screens where we're sitting at home and watching, almost weekly, unfortunately, something new. I don't envy your positions. I was saying to somebody today, I'm glad I'm not actively coaching a team because it would be really difficult to think, Zoom and these other platforms are necessary to be speaking with your team. So I applaud the effort there.
It's definitely frustrating, Matt. I know. Yeah. I've been looking for that 1-800 number, the 1-800 coaching number. Hi, my name's Lars. I'm feeling powerless as a coach. I can't meet with my men. I can't get my hands on them. I hope they're doing the right thing. Thank you. Bye.
I agree, Lars. It's like one of those things where you're sitting back hoping and praying that your upperclassmen can convince your underclassmen to do the right thing for the last, couple months.
I know. Oh, God.
So, Coach Tiffany, what's the – oh, sorry, Matt.
No, I just want to write that down. 1-800 the helpline. I've got people.
Coaching Anonymous. 1-800 Coaching Anonymous.
Okay. Wait, so Coach Tiffany, what are you guys doing down at UVA? What's the setup on the? Can you practice at all, or what are the
small groups? Yeah, trying to do like 12 people in a group there and keep them separated. We've got the gaiters; they can quickly put up over the nose and mouth, and lifting outside for now. Hopefully, being inside soon, but just with bands and push-ups and burpees and things you can do along those lines. So it kind of feels like when I was coaching the Ivy League, because there's much more limitations on fall, not the non-traditional season for what you could train. And so we'd always start small for the first month and do these small groups. 15, 20 years ago, you can only have 4 people in a group. And then if that started growing and expanding, I feel like it's almost back to 15, 20 years ago, getting these small little groups. And so we're going to do that. And then hopefully, the 5 or 6 weeks of where it could feel like full 20-hour phases, 20-hour a week phase, that we're full go mid-October, and then just kind of run through that until everyone goes home for Thanksgiving. So that's the hope. Just build it slowly. And then if we just do the right things and keep our positives down. And yeah. How about you guys?
Yeah, we've been, we're doing like testing once a week out here, and it's kind of the same thing, but we can do some full team stuff, but masks totally on the whole time. Even if they're within, 6 feet. And if you're 15, you can maybe pull your mask down a little bit, like if they're doing some conditioning with separate groups. But, it's challenging, especially with my goalie gang. I'm so used to getting into coaching, but also showing my appreciation to people with physical touch, being like, yo, you gotta, keep your head up. And I gotta be like, whoa, pull the hand back and motivate verbally. But I feel the struggle though. Thankful we can do stuff though, because I know it's hard for everybody out there. Gina, what are you doing at Cincy?
I'm jealous because we are still, we just were cleared last week to even be around our team in meetings, but we're not allowed to do any lacrosse related or physical conditioning activities. Our team is in shutdown mode, which is really sad and scary.
Yeah.
You're in a pickle.
Indeed.
Are you, or go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just saying, yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's why you and I can sit here with a smile on our faces.
I'm supposed to be working in Jamaica. I'm not allowed in the country, so I'm not getting close to them. I can't even get in the same island as them.
Oh God.
Talk about your physical barriers. And this was, we jumped this question, but somebody wanted me to ask, are you relying, and it doesn't sound like you are, but are any of you relying on athletic departments, diversity inclusion committees to relay these messages to your players? But it sounds like you're all taking it upon yourselves to do it. And have you seen positive results from the discussions? Coach Tiffany, you mentioned your players, it seems like they've given you some feedback. And obviously, Coach Thomas, with your girls coming to you, suggesting to watch when they see us. I would assume that it's helped a lot with their communication skills on these really important issues.
I mean, I think it's definitely helped with our kids being engaged, but I think everyone's at a point, and the hard thing for us is we have a few kids that are from Kentucky, which knowing the situation, what happened with Breonna Taylor in Kentucky, it kind of hit close to home for some of our student athletes. So we've been a little wrapped up in that the past couple of weeks, but I think, it's one of those things where, like, how much can you do in so little time with, affecting change, with again, not being allowed to march. There's a peaceful protest in Louisville that's happening, every other day. And, we're starting to do things like that of organizing it to where our student athletes, again, are not allowed to do anything with us as coaches. So we're trying to figure out how we can, still be involved in change, but also doing some things that are not centered around athletics is really hard to kind of find that balance. As an athletic department in general, trying to find a balance between, getting our kids back healthy so they can be involved in sport to keep their mental psyche together, but also being so close to Louisville and having some kids that are from that area and different athletes from that area. It's been pretty tough.
Right. Coach Tiffany?
Yeah, I know we've made progress, but it's how do you measure it, right? And I guess that's a challenge in all of this type of discussion is how do we measure it? What are the actuals that you can get your sort of tangibles of, okay, are we making progress? And certainly hearing, that the student athletes are coming and saying, hey, I got ideas, I want to present some opportunities here to learn more. That's a tangible, that's great. So I'm just feeling a little, we just had so little time with our men that I can't tell you that in our 3 or 4 Cultural Thursday sessions, we've changed the program dramatically. but I know we have. I just can't tell you how. You know, it's hard to, you know, sort of make it a quantitative analysis. But what was important for me was making sure, fellas, we're not just checking a box and we'll come back to this a year later. You know, we're gonna touch base with this every couple months. You know, we try to talk about other issues, and certainly, you know, underage consumption of alcohol is a big one. Substance abuse is a big one. Talking about dating and healthy relationships, one love, and but this is one that we haven't given nearly enough time to, and so I'm excited about it. Yeah, so it's really hard for me to give this total assessment of it, but it's something that we're just going to keep hitting.
And I think, you know, that's the hard part about the measurement of change is, you know, it's with kids talking about it. Does that mean change? With, you know, teams doing things, does that mean change? I think really it won't be something for us that we've kind of considered measurable. It's just, is it something that we continue to have as a topic of conversation? That means it's affecting more than just your circle's lives. And that's kind of what we tried to kind of talk about.
That's a key thing, I think, because it's doing the work is by its nature. With this work, you're doing the work, you're not going to see results. You know, hopefully the results of all the work we do now, hopefully my son sees it when he's 50, you know, and it's literally generational like that. It's not, you know, that you're going to see little light bulbs go off on people's heads that they're changed people. I think the idea is
exactly
to create a wave of influence that changes the way a percentage of the population thinks, to ensure that we keep things moving in a positive direction. You know, it's not about changing the world and flipping switches at all.
I think that coach asked me to ask you that question for that reason. I think he didn't feel like, and what I encouraged him was to keep going, because it sounds like you're all saying you want to keep going, you want to keep this moving. And as Brian, you just put it perfectly, that it's not something that you're going to just be able to see it's crystal clear, but it's going to be a long time coming. So I'm glad you all answered that, because that was kind of the imagination I had for it, but I wanted to ask you on behalf of that coach. I can open it up. If you have something that you wanted to mention that we haven't talked about, please do. Brian, from your perspective, I know you've, like you said, you're deal with a foreign country and the youth level, so we've got unique challenges as well.
Yeah, I'll actually just throw out a question for the college coaches, and I think it's a bit of a tricky one. You know, we talk about inclusion and diversity in the sport, but in the end, you know, your job is to win games, right? Your job is not to ensure, Lars, that you have, you know, 12% Black people on your team, right? That's not what your job is. Your job is to get good grades for your kids, get good grades, graduate, and win lacrosse games on the field. So how do you, I mean, is that something you ever even consider? Is it something you actively wish for? Or is it something that if it happens, it happens? If it doesn't, you know, I can't force that.
Boy, you're going right to the heart of the matter here. I love it. I love it, Brian. It's one we've definitely thought about over the years. And having grown up with Native Americans, the Onondagas, because I'm from Lafayette, New York, maybe that was just a little bit more, you know, less like big picture race and more sort of like just local roots. Like I wish someday I hope to recruit a Native American, you know, whether it has to be from Onondaga or from the western part of the state or whatever, of New York, and to play for me. And that's never happened. And I've been a head coach for 16 years and in this college coaching business for over 25. And so I've thought about it from the Native American perspective. And I've recruited African-American men, or I should say Black men, and they've come and played for the teams I coached at Stony Brook and Brown. And we've actually just taken a verbal commitment from a Black man for the University of Virginia but it's certainly first and foremost, you're right. You know, we are charged with, you know, developing great teams, you know, bonded, tight, you know, pursuing great educations, but winning lacrosse games. There's no question about it. We're not quite like football and basketball, where good people get fired for losing too many games. But, you know, you see it a little bit in lacrosse. It's starting to come in there. And so the ultimate charge for us is, hey, put together a team. And I talked to Anish Shroff, a fantastic announcer with ESPN, and what he does for our sport, and he does some other sports too, but what he does for the game of lacrosse is amazing. And he's talked about it, and he's been very open and passionate talking about race and the experiences he's had. But he's also like, hey, look, I get it. You can win a national championship in lacrosse without people of color. And so how do you attack this? So similar to what you're asking, Brian. And fortunately, there are fantastic Native American lacrosse players that I'm still going to hunt for, and I'm still going to get one of these days, you know, and there are Black lacrosse players that are impactful and are making a difference. So it is a part of it's sort of so that it can naturally happen without sort of stretching to say, hey, let's give this guy an opportunity, even though there's people better than him. We don't have to do that, fortunately. And I also feel fortunate that we know that our locker room is stronger with more diverse viewpoints. I know our cultural Thursdays, which we put so much weight on, as I mentioned earlier, Nish, that we need peoples with different viewpoints who are willing to share them. And hopefully we create that open and trusting environment that they will, that their viewpoints and those experiences brought into our team are going to make us tighter and better. So, but yeah, and now let me flip the other side of this, Brian. It's, you know, where if you were trying to feel like, okay, I need to create more diversity in my program, am I helping the growth of the game by that? Well, there's the other side of it is, okay, if the University of Virginia doesn't get this great lacrosse player, but he goes to another ACC school, he still has a great opportunity. UVA lost the opportunity, certainly, like I was just saying, to open up our locker room to a different perspective and diverse and more viewpoints. But where the real change comes in, and I think we've talked about this before, is getting at the younger levels and getting those youth and getting more people playing and getting more of those. So it's an interesting point, Brian, and I'm a little torn when you're talking about the elite of the elite who are going to end up somewhere and get a great opportunity. You know, are we really helping them by getting them to UVA if they can go to a different ACC school? I don't know. I know UVA is going to benefit. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it goes back to that foundational level of, do we even have people of color, Indigenous folks, Black people playing this sport to the max, to level up, and to have the ability to be seen. I know I'm always, and I think I brought this up on one of the shows, Matt, but like, I just remember I was stipend my first year playing club. We couldn't afford it after we had splurged for the goalie equipment. Me and my family, my club coach, Michelle DeJulius, was like, let me stipend this kid, because I know she has the ability to do it. And I was still the only Black kid on my team. And so I think that it does come from a lower level too of developing these programs, giving these kids a chance to play wherever they're at, and also giving them the ability to get to tournaments, to be seen. And I know I kind of got lucky with my recruitment, but I just think of all the kids out there that don't get lucky and don't get looks. And so, yeah, Coach Tiffany, I'm with you too, of like, the locker room is stronger with all those perspectives. And also, how can we realize when there is a locker room that is majority homogenous and all of the same kinds of people, how do we get those people to realize, whoa, all of us are very similar, all of us are maybe white? How can we bring more people into this space? What's wrong with this space? And where could it be different with the beauty of diversity? And somebody like me going into the locker room and feeling like I really belong, even though I only have one other Black teammate, you know? And I think it's like what it goes back to of what you're talking about, of creating a culture that also accepts those differences, you know? I've talked to a lot of coaches recently that are like, wow, I don't even know if necessarily I have the culture that would fully be open enough. And I think that it's up to those people to develop a culture that accepts and that's willing to have hard conversations.
And let me jump in there, Gina. You were probably about to talk, but something I've wanted to really, this whole summer has made me think about more so than before, because I always thought that athletics was the great mixing bowl to bring together races. You know, in professional sports, college sports, high school sports, you know, you mix the. We're about getting on a mission here, fellas. Jump on the bus or not. We're about winning lacrosse games. You know, building a really tight, united. And I always felt really good about that. Like, yeah, you're right. And so this talking about our differences and breaking down barriers of race, we can do that naturally in the locker room. But then this summer I started thinking about, well, wait a minute. You know, if I'm a teammate with Brian and I make some off-color jokes, but Brian doesn't get mad at me, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe Brian and I are cool. Brian's cool with this. But it's like that Lars, as coaches, we demand our men in the locker room to be, you know, to suck it up to be tough, to be vigilant, to suck it up on the field. Go get that tough ground ball. I don't care if you're going to get slashed or hit. We're relying on you. You gotta take your hit. You gotta take your punishment, you know? And am I conveying that into the locker room too? So when Brian hears these things that don't feel right, that are painful, but he's been told by the coach, hey, sometimes you gotta suck it up, you know? So he's sucking it up. Whereas what is that doing to me, who said the comment, or my other player, my teammates? It's like, we have created a false sense of trust. We've created a false belief that we're really united here. And that's really helped open my eyes this summer, to tell you the truth. So I just wanted to share that.
No, yeah. I mean, Coach Tiffany, I really think that's like, it's one of those things where you see sport as something that brings everyone together of different types of different walks of life. But I also believe that there are still, you know, people that separate it. They separate it to where it's like, you know, this is my teammate, this is my team. And yeah, like on the field, we can be one way, and then off the field, it's like, you wouldn't, you know, be seen walking down the street with me. Like, you know, like Mira said, you know, for me, I was fortunate, you know, years ago, I didn't play on the club team. I wasn't the only Black player on my club team because I didn't play one. I was fortunate enough to, you know, go to Ohio State, where my coach was from that same, you know, neighboring town. So I think that, you know, we all can, you know, I make it a point in my program, and I think it's obviously, you know, I shouldn't say obviously, but it's because I am an African-American woman playing in a sport that is, you know, predominantly white, that I make it a point within every kid that I recruit, whether white, Black, we have coached some Asian kids. And I just think it's important to have every, you know, different type of person, you know, that prepares you for life after sport. And especially with women's lacrosse, you know, there's the challenges to playing professionally. You know, you have to think about your career, and hopefully the career that they choose is very diverse. But if it's not, they're prepared for it. And unfortunately, I think it's unfortunately but fortunate that we're at a point where it's being forced to be talked about. And I think, you know, back when I chose a school based off of having an African-American player that was on my team. I felt like that was a priority for me to feel comfortable. But I think that now, you know, even recruiting some African-American players, you know, we talk about that. And some kids are like, you know, it's not a priority for me to have someone on my team who's Black or who's, you know, of different ethnicity or nationality. But I think it's important to, you know, that again, fortunately, we're at this point where we're talking about it. But, you know, I think it's, you know, whatever a coach chooses to do is it on them. But I think it's important to understand that, you know, as we continue to talk about this, it should continue to gain steam by just having it be a point of conversation, and whatever you feel comfortable with is what you feel comfortable with. But we're at a point right now where sport, you know, people in sport can actually, like Lars said, where it's not a fake sense of unity. It is now like, oh, I can talk to my teammate, and instead of him thinking he's tough enough to, you know, take whatever someone say, I, you know, be able to say, you know what, that makes me feel uncomfortable, or you know what, that's just not right for you to say to me, and that kind of be a real conversation that happens even if it's uncomfortable.
interesting that what I kind of got from all three of you, which I think is interesting, is that the key is to make sure you're developing a locker room that when that great black player does come along, they're going to feel welcome and want to be a part of it, right? That you're creating the culture where when you have a black player, they're able to thrive in it and be a part of the team and feel welcome in that locker room. And whether there's a black player in the locker room currently or not, you still need to create that culture where they would be welcome.
And create the culture where that black lacrosse player feels comfortable talking in as well. And I guess that's the key difference that hit me this summer, because I know we're going to do the best we can and we're going to fall short. Most of us are white. We have the white privilege and we're going to make mistakes. And the more so that others can point out those mistakes, early, the better. And that takes courage as a 19-year-old, who looks different from everyone else in the locker room, but that's my challenge as a coach. Can I create that locker room atmosphere? First of all, start with myself. Can I, if that person isn't willing to step in front of the whole team and say something, at least come talk to me, and have at least start with me, but trust with their teammates to be able to say something. And then obviously it's the steps from there. Will the teammates listen? But because I know we're going to make some mistakes along the way. And that's what I'm so focused on right now, is to make sure that when we talk about, do we have a locker room where we can be vulnerable? We can expose ourselves and share ourselves. And we've made some tremendous progress as a lacrosse team at UVA on other areas. But I want to make sure we nail this one and get this right. So yeah, you're right, Brian.
I think one of our guests just recently, who's a white professional player, I think he summed it up really well, and I really should get this quote word for word, but he basically said, it's on me to keep trying and learning and attempting these things, and know that if I make a mistake, it's from a good place. And I think that's what you're saying, Coach Tiffany, is you're trying these different tactics and things and avenues, and everyone is really, and you're coming from a good place, and that's what you need to be comfortable with, is like, I made a mistake. I kind of see it that way. Like if I make a mistake and I'm coming from a good place, it's not an intentional mistake, it's unintentional. And yet I'm willing to say I made a mistake and I want to better myself or whatever the mistake was made on. So I applaud.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's it's a two-sided coin as well, in that, that is a reality. And what Coach is talking about is a reality. People are going to make mistakes. People are going to say stupid things, just because of where they grew up and what they're used to hearing and not even thinking about what they're saying. And I think the other side of it is that, sometimes we need to be a little bit less slow to condemn, and you got to look at someone's heart, who they are, what they really stand for, and recognize that they made a mistake. This is a good person. They made a mistake. We're not going to hang them. We're going to talk to them. We're going to try and improve, get better, and make sure it's not a pattern. But I do think we have fallen a bit into the, hangman society. You say something wrong and it's time to take them out and string them up. Like, that's it. That's obviously an awful person. And that's just not the case, I don't think. And I think, Lars, you touched on that well, that you need to be comfortable talking about it. You also need to be comfortable understanding that the person may have just made a mistake.
Yeah. And I appreciate you guys, there's like a Zoom man hug I just got from both of you. So thank you. And on my screen, you're actually around me, so I can really actually physically see it. But like Drew Brees might've been a great example when he came out, late spring, early summer, and saying, hey, for that flag, my grandfathers fought for that flag. We're not going to disrespect that flag. And, Malcolm Jenkins and others, got all over him. And then, I think Drew Brees really thought about it for the next couple of days and came out and said, you know what, I was wrong. And I thought that was a great example of that, because I think we have a lot of respect for Drew Brees. I don't know too much about Drew Brees' politics, but the man I got to see him speak at the ESPYs. I've seen him talk on interviews. I think he's a good human being, and I feel like it was great that he said he made a mistake and we move forward. But I appreciate what you guys just said.
Yeah, and Coach, I feel like the main point too that what you're saying is, he owned what he said. if you own it, that's what I've been trying to tell people as well that make these mistakes. Just own it. Own that you said it. And that's how you come back from it. You know, you apologize. But I think that where the turmoil lies is when people don't own what they said and then try to go for the apology. I think that there's something that's so special about still owning and being deliberate about what you say and not necessarily going back on your word, but holding truth to what you said and then apologizing for it. And I think that that's how we really heal for all the people that have either, whether it's racist remarks or prejudice, and how we move forward too. And I know that's for me in terms of personal relationships of people where I've had these hard conversations, and the way that we've moved forward was they've owned, hey, I'm sorry I wasn't on your team before, but now I'm with you. And now I stand with you.
Yeah.
Through a better understanding of the individual, I think we're all saying, let's be more optimistic when we're speaking to people. I know for one, Brian, I was not optimistic. I took people, they said something stupid, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have time. But this day and age, yes, optimism is key. I want to go around. I want to wrap this, kind of bring it toward the conclusion because I know we're short on time. Mention your thoughts on a way forward or what you're doing even tomorrow or next week. And then a fun side of this is I just want to know what you're reading, if you're reading anything currently book-wise, what you're reading. And I'll start because I just started with Begin Again by, I think I'm saying his last name right, Professor Eddie Glaude Jr. He's a distinguished professor of African American Studies at Princeton University. And I've read short clips of him before, but this Begin Again is basically his current book of this year that he's comparing essays and writings of, oh my gosh, now I'm drawing a blank. Oh, geez, it's a famous author. I'm drawing a blank, but he's comparing the essays from the 60s to right now. And it's amazingly powerful in the sense of, it's unfortunate that it's very similar. So I'll let you all go around one by one.
Ravenoni is right here. They put it in. He's on that space.
I'll go. I'm actually reading Becoming by. I am. Well, my husband is, but yeah, we have an appointment to go to. But I am reading Becoming by Michelle Obama. I feel like I need to be a little bit more understanding of politics and wanting to know kind of the behind the scenes with that. And I also respect her presence in the class that she has, and just kind of wanting to know a little bit about her. But that's kind of what I'm reading right now, with, just continuing kind of like Coach Tiffany and Mira, just trying and with Brian, trying to figure out kind of what to do next with our livelihoods as coaches and the expectation of what our team is going to be allowed to do. It's kind of getting to a point where I'm getting a little anxiety and anxiousness about what that looks like for us. And again, just being a competitive person, I need sport. So just wanting to try to get around my team and just continuing to Zoom and FaceTime with a couple of them individually is tough, but I know we have to do that to continue to stay engaged. But just, counting down the days and the weeks to, hopefully get on the field with them at some point, and just get back to just enjoying the game that I love.
Beautiful. Mira, I know you have to go because your battery's running low. From the laundry
Love
room.
it. Love it. So I'm currently reading The Obstacle is the Way, which is a team read of ours that our head coach, Hannah Nielsen out here, has our whole team reading. And it's been awesome thus far. I read the preface and then the first couple chapters, but really about, how do you move past hardships and adversity and, take the positive route and the higher road to success. How do you be successful through that? I'm also a side hustle personal read is Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. It's a poetry collective, but I am a tender soul or an old soul, so I love reading poetry. So that's just a side read of mine, but it's been very tender and nice. And Matt, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure. And I think going back to my first point, I'm just going to really try to motivate my squad to vote on November 3rd and have them understand why they're doing that and what a privilege it is to be able to do that. So it's awesome being on here with y'all. I'll pass it off to Coach Tiffany.
Yes.
Hit me. The obstacle is the way. Oh, you're getting me all excited over here. That was one of our books we've done with the University of Virginia and our Cultural Thursdays, a book by Ryan Holiday, Stoicism. I love that book. I highly recommend it for anyone who's trying to use books through cultural transformation of a team, an organization, a business, whatever you got. It's nice bite-sized chapters, about 6 pages, 7 pages a chapter, 32 different examples of histories of men and women through historical references, whether it was military, whether it was sport, whether it was scientific discovery, just some incredible people. And really talking about, the title just describes it, that people the obstacle is the way. The hardship defines you, and how you overcame that hardship defines you and makes you who you are, and how so many great people had to punch and fight right through big obstacles. And it's just, I love that book. So what am I reading right now? I've got the History of Knowledge, which is sort of my fun sort of just diving into some of the great theories and discoveries of the human race. And that's just, I can open up any place and kind of read through it and just connecting, and certainly heavy influence of initially the Greeks and the Romans, and then the church and religion through thousands of years here. But that, and then I'm plowing through White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. And that's I'll admit, that one doesn't just, I don't just go through a couple chapters in a night, and put the book down. That book makes me think. And so it's a little bit more of a slow slog of getting through it and really kind of diving into some of this, things that I just, honestly, I've thought a little bit about, but not as much depth. And that's what's been great about the summer, is really making me self-analyze and see if I can grow and learn.
Brian?
So I just reached over and got this because this is it's a book-length poem. It is a tribute to Dr. J that my mother-in-law just sent me, I think obviously because she knows I love sports and she knows I was a fan of Dr. J. I think also because she feels like I'm reading a bit too much serious stuff. I need to just kind of read some nice things about some dude that played basketball really, really well. So I'm excited to read this. It looks interesting. I've never read a book-length poem like this before. Prior to this, I was reading weird stuff. I actually went back and read 2 Shakespearean plays that I haven't read in a long time. Richard III, this is one of my favorites, and Othello, which is another one of my favorites. So just
go Silcott.
Every once in a while, my complete works of Shakespeare, and just pick one to re-indulge in for a while and just have some fun with the words. Kind of read it out loud almost when I read it, to get the words to flow off your mouth. It's kind of fun. I'm a little bit weird though sometimes.
Love that, Coach.
We are not, this is an open sharing forum. We're not going to say you're weird. And I apologize. Mine is Begin Again, and it's in James Baldwin's America, and it's Urgent Lessons for Our Own by Eddie S. Glaude Jr., which I've gotten through the introduction in the first chapter this morning, and it's a really good read. I want to make sure the obstacle is the way. Was that Ryan Holiday? Did I hear that correctly, Mira?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'll put those on the description for the video as well as all these. But yeah, let's I'll go ahead and wrap up here. I think this is a good closing point for this segment. As always, I appreciate all of you taking the time. I am looking for some college students that are current players, so then they don't have to be lacrosse players, just current athletes. If you have any that are willing to sit on a panel, thanks, Mira, let me know. I think it's really neat. When I did it last time, I think I had 4 women and 2 young men, or 3 and 5 or something. But it's neat to have both genders on and allow them to share and just, I think we all, you guys are as close as you can to get to your teams, but for me, it's neat to just hear young people in their early 20s, if not 19-year-olds, talk about how they see what's going on with the knowledge that they have in their short lives. So that's coming up, and let's all just continue to grow. And as I think Coach Tiffany said, or Brian said, let's make sure we listen, and just not jump on people right away. And I think we'll be better for that. So with that, I'll let you all say goodbye, and we'll call it a night. Pose a question to the panel by emailing us at ot@emwf.org. We'd love to hear from you.